Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Happy to have with us again Bill Cherry, Samantha Rothschild there with an entity known as 3+1, does a cashVest program. This is in a program that's been endorsed by the National Association of Counties. That's where I first learned about it. But our Tennessee County Services Association has also endorsed it, as has the County Officials Association of Tennessee. And it's really folks that were coming out of the banking and financial services industry that saw the technology and the software that was useful there, as when banks are looking at managing large investments and accounts and knowing exactly how much money they can invest, how much money they can invest for different time frames, and how to maximize the interest earnings on all those funds. They saw an opportunity in an application where this could be beneficial to local governments. So in partnership with NACO and with other state associations around the country, that began working with local governments and have made a tremendous impact from place to place. Some cases, it's simply a matter of the county not always having a great handle on how much they had in the way of investments, but many times it was more a matter of trustees and treasurers making good investments, but they didn't always have all the data they needed to be able to say, I know I can lock these funds up safely for a 6-month period or a 12-month period or however long it might be, and use that information to maximize the interest earnings without in any way undermining the county's access to the funds they need or their liquidity. So that's from someone who's not an accountant and not a software person. That's my simple explanation of some of what they're doing. But Bill's here with us that could talk in a lot more detail about that and also give some examples of how they've been able to have tremendous impact to local governments across the country, including there's 3 they're working with here in Tennessee already, with more on the way. So Bill, I will turn it over to you and appreciate you being with us again.
David, thank you very much. Thanks for that great introduction, and you really do have a great handle on what 3+1 does and how cashVest works. I'd like to thank the county mayors and other county officials, county commissioners, and directors of finance, and if there's any trustees on the call as well, we thank you for taking valuable time to join us today. We know you're always striving to do everything you can to benefit your county, your taxpayers, your constituents, and we believe that the cashVest program is a great tool to help in those efforts. I'd also like to thank my colleague and friend Samantha Rothschild for helping with the slide presentation today and for taking us through these slides. As for myself, I served as a chief financial officer, county treasurer in county government in New York State for 24 years. I was the chief investment officer as well, also the budget officer for pretty much all of those years, almost all of those years as well. After I retired from county government, I became the director of public partnerships for 3+1, and we're taking our services and our message across the country. And as David said, we've really made some amazing successes and generated well over $2 billion with a B in brand new revenues for counties that they'd never earned before. So we're really proud of that, and again, welcome. And I'm going to jump right into the slide presentation and talk about where we stand and what the solution is for declining rates. So, as you know, we're in a declining rate environment right now. It was predicted to decline even quicker. But then, as you also know, inflation has been stubborn, and the Fed has not decreased rates at the same schedule that they had thought that they would. But rates are decreasing. The Fed has cut interest rates by 1% over the past several months. And what that means is for every $1 million in cash that your county has on deposit, it'll generate about $10,000 less in interest earnings over the next 12 months versus what it did over the previous 12 months. So a Tennessee county with $50 million on deposit could see their interest revenues drop by $500,000 during 2025. That's a huge that's a huge drop, and can create a real budget hole as expenses continue to rise, but revenues remain flat. Our next slide will point out that inflation can actually reduce the spending value of cash as well. So cash sitting in a low or a no interest bank account really represents a missed opportunity to add significant revenues. And it's not only a missed opportunity to add to revenues, it can actually, the spending power can decrease over time. So if money is sitting in an account that's earning anything less than, I used a range, current inflation rates. I think the most recent reading at the Fed meeting was around 3%. But if funds on deposit are earning anything less than 2.5 to 3%, those dollars are actually eroding as they sit on deposit. And of course, you don't want that to happen. You don't want the purchasing power of your money to decrease, certainly. This next slide will show, I took uh, what I'll call as a typical county that a lot of times this is what we see. So let me start at the top there. Can the cashVest effect really increase interest revenues by 50 to 75%? The answer is yes. That seems like an impossible figure, right? But over these next 3 slides, you'll see that it's not. I use an example of a county with $70 million on deposit. Some of you may have more, some of you may have less. We serve counties all the way from counties with, $5 to $8 million on deposit up to counties with multiple billion on deposit. We serve very large counties as well as very small counties. But if I had to pick a sweet spot, I would say most of our county clients fall in the range of between 35 to 150 million on deposit, and they have budgets that are in that same general range. So knowing what we know about how counties keep their funds on deposit without cashVest liquidity data, I think the example below is probably a pretty representative example. A county with 70 million on deposit might have about 55 million in operating accounts. Now, some of them are earning 2%. There are many instances, quite honestly, where the accounts are earning 0 or less than that. One of our clients, before they were a client, when we began to look at their data, we found $9 million that was earning 0. A lot of times banks are paying in the 1% range, but I'm trying to be realistic here, and so I used a number of 2%. So 55 million at 2%, that would generate 1.1 million in interest earnings over 12 months. I'm also using for this typical county, saying that they probably have at least some money, maybe 10 million or so, in a local government investment pool. You have one in Tennessee that's currently paying 4.5 or 4.6%. I didn't check it today, but that's certainly a viable option. It's a great tool to have in the toolbox, or it could be a bank money market. But having access to a high interest liquid fund is a great tool for some of your money. So I'm assuming this typical county has maybe 10 million or so in a money market or in JIP. We often see that as we're reviewing accounts. Less likely, but still possible, they may have some money in short-term CDs, 30 days to 90 days, probably earning at around 4.6% right now, which again is down from what we were seeing last year. But that 5 million would generate about 230,000. So for this, I'll call it a typical county that doesn't have access to cashVest data. We're going to make about $1,780,000. Now, the next slide will show what that same county should be able to would earn using cashVest data. The key to cashVest liquidity data is that it provides the finance office with the absolute confidence necessary for them to make longer term fixed income investment decisions. And that's so important because the best, most stable portfolios, municipal investment portfolios, include a solid foundation of some fixed income investments, usually more than 50, about 50% or more of the total cash. So let's look at what that. Remember, this is a county that had about $70 million on deposit. With having access to cashVest data, they would only need to keep about $6 million in those operating accounts. Our data provides timelines, future liquidity analysis that can predict with great accuracy how much money will be on deposit and for exactly how long. So for this county, they could maybe put 6 million or leave 6 million in those operating accounts that are low interest. 20 million would be able to go in one of the local government investment pools, as you have in Tennessee, or in a money market earning around 4.5%. That generate 900,000. And the key here is 44 million would then be available for anywhere from 30-day to 18-month CDs, and even longer. I mean, our data provides information to our clients that would allow them to invest for significantly longer than that, 24 months, 36 months. Those choices are always up to you and the county. And sometimes it's hard. And I know as a former treasurer, it's hard to feel confident that you could invest county funds for that amount of time. But our data shows that it's absolutely a real option. And we're very proud of the fact that never once in all of our years of serving counties have we ever recommended a CD to a county, a certain maturity length, where then the county had to cash it in early. And that's because we're ultra conservative, but we're also ultra accurate with our data. So that 44 million would generate 1,980,000. That's $3 million for that same county simply by investing the funds in a slightly different way. And on the next slide, you'll see that the total $3 million in interest earnings over 12 months with cashVest liquidity data in place versus $1,780,000 without cashVest data in place. That's a 68.5% increase in revenues, or an additional $1,220,000 that can be used for county spending priorities or to offset those increased costs, which we know inflation continues to press upwards. Now, just so you don't think that I'm making up these numbers, and there's real life examples of cashVest clients that are doing this today and every day. This is an example of 6 counties. Now we're our home base is in New York, so you can see I've got a North Carolina county, several New York counties, also one in Minnesota. We're in 18 states all across the country. But our biggest base right now is in New York, biggest concentration of clients. But as David pointed out, we serve 3 counties in Tennessee: Rutherford, Williamson, and Washington. And Anderson County is just about to sign on as well. And so these are real life examples. Money is money, whether it's in New York or whether it's in Tennessee. So let me just point that from the top here, the county in North Carolina has $56.8 million on average on deposit, and they earned $2,889,000. And I like to compare those earnings to that county's property tax levy as well. Not necessarily meaning that they're going to cut property taxes by 11.1%, but it does give you a real life indicator of what that amount of interest earnings can do. And it does oftentimes result in either a tax reduction or in a holding the line on taxes for a very long time without the need for any kind of a tax increase, which of course we know taxpayers appreciate. Next county down is 66.4 million. Oops, we'll go back to that slide, Sam. There you go. The next county down has 66.4 million. They also earned $2.9 million. That's about 9%. The third one down, 67.5 million. Once again, $3 million, just under. That's about 10.7%. Now, these numbers vary. Let's look at the fourth one down. There's a county with 71.9 million. And they earned 3,097,000. That's 11.9% of their tax levy. If you look at the county, the second one from the bottom, they have 92 million. They have significantly more money on deposit, and yet they earn 2.7 million, which is not shabby. Don't get me wrong. They earn 2.7 million, which is 9.3%. But there's a perfect indicator that all decisions remain with you, with the county. We provide you with the data. We provide you with our expert team. We provide you with our analysis of what are the best options. But the decisions are always up to the individual county. And that's why those returns vary. Now, I just use this snapshot, this one slide, because I used a $70 million example in the previous slide. I could put up a slide for 10 million to 50 million, and this one happens to be 50 to 100, but then there's 100 to 150 and so on. So the results are real, they're happening, and I understand this is based, these returns were based upon when returns were Fed rates were a little bit higher, but you get the idea. The promises we make are absolutely achievable. They're happening, and they're happening right now. On the next slide, you'll see that this is an example of what is considered by pretty much every oversight entity all across the country, whether it be the federal government, whether it be state auditors, whether it be individual county auditors, state comptrollers. This is a perfect example of what would be perceived as a really safe, stable, and balanced portfolio. And it also is the highest yielding based upon everything we know. We start with a core foundation, guaranteed fixed income investments. That's what you're seeing in purple. That's bank CDs, U.S. Treasuries, etc. That next layer up, that light blue layer, that's the high yield liquid, where funds are always available to be transferred on a day-to-day basis if needed. That's the local government investment pool or money market. And then at the very top there, that thin gold band, that's low yield operating accounts, where the bank often, because they're working accounts, often the bank is paying a lower rate if they're paying anything at all. So this is when you look at a cashVest report. This is an example. This is, by the way, a real life example of a county cashVest report. This county happens to have. This is a 12-month period, and I'm looking. This county happens to have around 200 million on deposit. About 135 of it or so is in the purple range. Another 100 and change is in the high yield, and then probably maybe 8 to 10 million in the low yield operating accounts. Okay, next slide, Stan. And this shows the benefits of adding fixed income investments like CDs and treasuries to a cash management strategy. It provides rate stability. Those fixed income investments, they are for varied maturities. So the 6 month, a mixture of 6 month CDs, 1 year CDs, perhaps 18-month CDs, maybe even we always suggest at least considering even something longer, maybe a small amount of liquidity out for 24 months. And then those continue to roll over and get renewed at whatever the current highest rate is. And obviously, we help you find those highest rates. That is what generates rate stability. It is a blend of those fixed income investments. It also provides diversification because you're not having all your eggs in one basket by having everything in one sort of even an investment pool or a money market account. Having the fixed income added component provides you with a diversification that comptrollers and state auditors really like to see. It's a great tool for long-term strategic planning and budgeting because you can predict with great accuracy what your revenues will be next year. Right now, if you have funds, almost all of your county funds in a liquid fund, it's generating fairly good returns. Not as high as it was a year ago, but they're generating fairly good returns, probably in that 4.5% range. But you can't count on that, right? You can't budget based upon that for anything other than perhaps 6 months to at the most a year, because none of us knows where rates will be a year from now. We can have an idea. We can listen to the latest economic reports, but none of us knows for sure. With fixed income component added to your portfolio, it doesn't matter. You're gonna, for example, an 18-month CD at 4.5% right now is going to generate that 4.5% on into your next year's budget cycle. So it provides really consistent returns, and it's great for budgeting and planning. And once again, number 4 there, rate protection. Liquid investments the rates can drop very fast in unpredictable ways. COVID is a perfect example. Rates under COVID went from around 3% to basically 0% in a very short amount of time. So municipalities that had funds strictly in liquid accounts like money markets or LGIPs, their interest revenues basically evaporated, not overnight, but almost overnight. Now that didn't happen to our clients that use cashVest especially because of that fixed income component in their portfolio. That's the core foundation, the rock wall that carries them through those type of situations. And while many municipalities around the country earned 0 in the aftermath of COVID for probably a year or even longer, 3+1 clients averaged about 2 to 2.5% through that entire period, which at the time, 200 basis points or 250 basis points seemed like a dream to clients where their neighbors were earning 0. The next slide we're coming to the end here. I just want to reassure you, 3+1 is not a competitor to your local banks. We understand that you have valued relationships with those banking partners. We simply use our data to help keep the playing field level. We never touch your money. We're not vying for you to put any deposits with us. We are independent data analysts that look at your liquidity, look at the history of your liquidity in your county. We track every dollar, and that provides us just a wealth of information. And we're able to then share that with you. And the end result is all the bankers keep their pencils sharp because they know that they know us, the banks know us all across the country, and we know them. We have a great working relationship. We're not in working in conjunction with any particular bank. What we are is because we have so many counties that we serve, if a certain bank is, let's just say, hasn't recently perhaps updated their interest, the interest they're paying to a county, we recognize that right away, and we're able to say to the county, listen, that same bank is paying 75 basis points higher, to another entity. Let us talk to them for you, or you can talk to them yourselves. But let's see what we can do to get that bank to maybe take another look at how valuable your relationship is with them. And we do it nicely, but what it does is it keeps the bankers alert. And in the end, it generates the maximum amount of interest earnings for your county. This next slide is just a summary of 3+1. Um, those are the map on the left. There are the states where we serve counties. As David said, we're recommended by NACO, endorsed by TCSA, as well as COAT, which is the Trustees Association in Tennessee. And the key things we have and we provide are cashVest reports, reliable future forecasts of all cash and liquidity. We independently evaluate all interest rates. We do an analysis of all bank fees, whether they be hard bank fees where you're writing a check to the bank, or if they're soft bank fees where the bank is requiring compensating balances. A lot of times those compensating balances turn out to be significantly more than the fee structure would justify, and we're able to get the bank to lower the amount that should be on deposit to offset bank fees, which frees up additional money to then be put to work earning interest. And our team works directly with your finance office to identify underperforming cash, and key component, find ways to put that money to work earning interest. And this last slide, as I conclude, just provides you with my email address, my contact number, including my cell number. There, feel free, please, to call me anytime directly on my cell. You'll also get me directly on the office line, but either one of those is a great way to get in touch with me. And David, I'll turn it back over to you, just in case anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks for all the information, and we'll just throw it out there. If you have a question, you either want to raise your hand or just unmute and jump in. I'm sure he would be happy to try to answer questions for you.
David, if I may, while we're waiting for any questions, some people are probably wondering, well, how much does it cost? I'll just put it right out there. We have a rate structure that is the same all across the country and all across. It's sliding scale, but it's county by county. And in general, the rate structure is we have a minimum annual fee of $14,900. That would be for counties, any county that has an expenditure budget of around between 50 and 60 million or less. If you're a 20 million, a 30 million, a 40, a 50, or even a $60 million county, that's probably going to be your fee. But anything above that is a sliding scale of $250 per 1 million. So a $100 million county would have a fee of about $25,000. And by the way, just to go on the record as saying, while $14,900 may sound like a lot, over the course of an entire year, your finance office will generate hundreds of $1,000s, often hundreds of $1,000s in additional revenue. So we think that's a very low fee, and counties often generate 10 to 15 times, sometimes 20 or 30 times that fee just in additional revenue. That's what I'd put that.
Thank you again, Bill, Samantha, for being with us. And that's what we will. If you've got someone else in your county you'd like them to see this presentation, we'll have it. We recorded it, so we'll be posting it to the website shortly and providing links to that. But again, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.